Welcome in to TWMP Daily. I'm Scott Faughn, back for the third day in a row, joined with a very special co-host, Casey Burns. Thank you for making the time.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
And we are joined by a person there's very few people that every single piece of legislation that building runs through. One of them is the Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives, Dr. John Patterson. Dr. Patterson, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, glad to be with you.
Okay, so getting into crazy season, right? I know you don't have a lot of time, but I appreciate the time you did make. So how many texts do you get on a day like today?
About 1 million.
Yeah, but so how many people are texting you today? I've got to say triple digits, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
I've tried to lay off of you the last 2 weeks. I hope you've noticed.
Yeah.
I always think it's so hard. I've watched other. I worked for a speaker just as texting was becoming a thing. And I'm not sure it's made life better for the rest of the world. I'm not sure for the Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives, the text messaging innovation's been that helpful.
Yeah, no, it's helped in some ways, and in some ways it probably hurts. But happy to do it, and sometimes it makes things easier.
Let's talk about the first part of session. I think you could say you've had a productive session. The House, it's easy to be productive, but you've had someone to dance with in the Senate. The St. Louis crime bill is a big thing. You know, you could serve in that body for a long time and never do anything quite that substantial. Has to be a pretty proud accomplishment.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what I've been telling people is I think it's already been a good session. I think we're on the verge of having a great session. So the last 2 weeks, I think that's what we're really going after.
You passed a utility bill that's already seeing firms announce breaking ground on energy production, on power plants, essentially. That is the type of thing, it's those things that you always take for granted, like when that light switch comes on. But the truth is, we're using more and more power. We're using more power than the state's generating. That's a big deal. When you talk about recruiting companies to Missouri, that's a big accomplishment.
It is, and I think 20 years from now, when we're all out of politics, or most of us, I think when we look back at legislation that made a difference in the life of our state, that's probably something you can look at and say we started the process of building the infrastructure that we needed to have the energy to power the economy that Missouri wants. And it's all part of the process. And I think we did a lot of it with that bill, and I think it'll pay dividends for years to come.
You really look at your 7 years in the legislature. I guess you've got to see a lot of things. Number one, building I-70 and actually starting the process to start generating more power in this state. Those are two things that you've got to look back on and be proud of.
Absolutely. And again, 20 years from now, when you're driving on a 3-lane I-70 all the way from Lee Summit over to St. Louis, and it's 6 lanes the whole way, I think you'll look back and think that's one of the great things that we did. Although right now, when you're driving from Columbia to Wentzville and through Kansas City, that area, and you're about 5 inches from a semi, it doesn't feel great. I think 20 years from now, we'll really like it.
I think it's some temporary pain, but it is truly something. I think you and I could have sat in Connie Searpoy's kitchen that day when you were just talking about running. And if I would have told you you'd have been part of two huge things like that, I think we'd have both rolled our eyes and thought there's no way.
Yeah, and then to come here and be able to be a part of it, that's pretty amazing.
All right, talk to me about Cinder O'Loughlin sat in that chair yesterday, or Monday, and said she was about to have a meeting with you and the floor leader, with her floor leader, and hash out priorities of what was important to both chambers. I have personally witnessed the fact that going into a year or two ago, you've been fostering a relationship with Cinder O'Loughlin. Tell me what that relationship is like, and how are those meetings? Cordial meetings? Are they substantive? Tell me about your relationship with the pro tem.
Well, I am one of Cindy's biggest fans. I have been for a long time, and I feel like we've gotten closer in the past year. We've worked together now in leadership positions for 3 years, and I've gotten to know her more and more. I first met her at a Mike Searpoy fundraiser in 2018, I believe. And I really liked her back then. And then we kind of made our way up the respective chambers together. And we talk on a daily basis, or talk and text on a daily basis now. She's really a great person to work with, just very no nonsense, honest. She just
She's funny.
will tell you
I think she's
what
funny.
she thinks, and that makes it easy to work with.
I get a kick out of talking with her because number one, she actually comes off like she believes what she's talking about, like it's not some talking point or something. And she's also funny. That's what I like. I mean, I actually enjoy talking to her because she's funny.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most hilarious moments just come when she says something that's just kind of, that outrageous sort of thing that's kind of the truth. And we have a good time. I really enjoy spending time with her.
I'm not going to lie. She's easier to interview than you are. You really just have to kind of throw a couple words out, and then 3 minutes later, she's still talking.
Yeah, she's much more quotable.
So. You know the pro tem pretty well, Casey. What do you think?
I'm a huge fan of Senator O'Loughlin. I think it's awesome that she's the first woman pro tem of the Senate, and I think she got there because she keeps those men in line, which obviously
I do too.
It's a skill I'm trying to acquire.
No, I think you've mastered it with the German people, I think, but I actually think she did get that job because she was the one who had the most fortitude, who actually the senators thought would stick up for the Senate.
I think that's exactly right.
I think they got what they wanted. Now every day, some senator, it's probably not their favorite day when she has to tell them no, and they can't do anything about it. But I think overall, folks like what they bought.
But there are people who've wanted that job who struggle with saying no, and that's not a problem for Cindy. And I think that's really admirable and necessary.
All right, going forward, the big thing over in the Senate, some Prop A fixes. I mean, look, to me, you've been an owner in a business. You always hope the government stays out of your life. They're just determined not to with Prop A, and that's a voters thing. Tell me, it seems like the Democrats have a little bit better leg to stand on when they're defending things the public voted on. You passed a Prop A fix. What do you think the key things are? And is it a little bit harder to message against the Democrats when they have a public validation of their, a statewide validation of their perspective?
It is, and that's why I think it's important that people understand that we're not repealing Prop A necessarily. Yeah. We want the $15 minimum wage to stay in place. I think what it is truly is a compromise on the sick leave portion. Yeah. If you saw the kind of compromise that was formulated last week, it left sick leave in place for most of the employees that we have. And it just exempted very small businesses. We want people to have time off if they're sick. The way Prop A did it, it just makes it very hard on businesses. And when you make things hard on businesses, they're either going to close or not hire. And that's actually going to hurt the people that we're all trying to help, which is employees, and making sure that people have good jobs.
So end of the day, I mean, it feels like to me, as someone that watches the state Senate, that there is a compromise brewing that might take care of the situation. Senator O'Loughlin Monday seemed very determined that she was going to get a compromise through the Missouri State Senate. You've watched this now for over half a decade. Do you think you're going to get a Prop A fix done, sent back to you from the Senate?
I think we have to get a Prop A fix done, and I'm not sure anybody's talked about it, and I would never speak for Governor Kehoe, but he's a guy that owns two businesses, I think. And so if we don't get this done, would it be worth a special? I don't know, but just if you look at Governor Kehoe, he's a business person. He's had hundreds of employees. You have to think that this is very important to him. I truly hope we get this done during this session, and I'm optimistic that we can. We just have to compromise. People will have the minimum wage. They'll have sick leave. We just have to do it in a way that doesn't kill businesses, because that will hurt employees in the end.
I've even talked to some folks that provide sick leave right now, and the way in which Prop A would force them to do that, it makes them really think about, it makes them regret the whole situation. They were offering a form of this benefit, but right. There's different ways to offer sick leave. I think there are even folks that are trying to do what Prop A's funders wanted them to do. Mm-hmm. It's almost that part would seem to be pretty poorly crafted.
Yeah, and that's just part of it. I think when you have something that's written and not vetted completely, this is what you get. And I think it's okay for the people and their elected representatives to try to refine things. And I think that's what we're doing. You always have to find compromises in legislation. And I'll tell you, we've got a number of bills over here that have to do with businesses and economic development, and I don't think I have much interest, and the Republican conference doesn't have much interest in seeing those bills move until we get Prop A addressed, because there's really no point in killing businesses and then doing other bills that say you're trying to help businesses. So I really want to get Prop A addressed, and then I think we can move on some of these other bills.
You've talked a lot about education. Number one, you've got an open enrollment bill that you've passed out, sent over to the Senate. It's on the floor of the Senate right now. You know, the open enrollment bill just seems like a common sense thing. I have a hard time understanding the opposition to open enrollment. It just, the way they've got it crafted, it seems like a very common sense, essentially, option you're giving to schools.
It is. It's opt-in. It's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
I think they're debating it right now. Like you say, I think it's common sense. I think the most important thing we do in Jeff City is legislation that affects how we educate our kids. And so I'm glad that the Senate's taking it up. They're going to spend time on it. I hope we can find some compromise there. But in terms of what we do in Jeff City, there's probably nothing more important than education. So I'm glad to see them spending time on it.
In terms of what we do on this show, there's nothing more important than thanking our sponsors. The United Fiber up in the Great Northwest and the Courtyard by Marriott, we thank them for allowing us to come with you throughout the week. This week, we've done 3 times. Senator Laughlin, we had Andrew Bailey in, and now we have the House Speaker, John Patterson. Let's talk about this homeschool bill. You've got some changes to homeschool legislation. What would those entail?
Yeah, I think this is commonly known as the Tim Tebow legislation. It just says if you live in a school district and your parents pay property taxes there, you as a homeschooler ought to have the same opportunities to do activities that the other students have there, and so this would allow that. One of the things that's really changed in my time being in Jeff City is how I feel about homeschooling, and I think that really changed, like a lot of people, after the pandemic. When I came into the legislature, I thought homeschool was kind of a weird thing to do, but now I think
I honestly do too.
I have a much higher opinion of homeschooling, and some of my siblings now homeschool their kids, and I've seen it in action. And for these kids to get the opportunities to play sports, to play in band, I think it's very important. And so that was the bill that we did today, and I hope we can get that across the finish line.
I think after COVID, when a lot of parents had to figure out how to make sure their kids were schooling online while they're working at home and seeing what that process, it made the homeschooling argument a lot more open.
Yeah,
it's still kind of weird.
I basically was a homeschool teacher for 2 months, and you see how kids deal with things, how they learn, and then to see my siblings do it, that's one thing that's really changed in how I view education. So we want to make sure these kids have those same opportunities.
I'm so glad Kelton wasn't homeschooled. Kelton, you were not homeschooled, correct?
That is correct. I
mean, without you going to school, Blair Oaks wouldn't have anybody to beat in Ashland when they went up there once a year.
That was a little bit of a low blow.
It was a low blow, but it was meant to be.
I was going to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not signing up to homeschool Gussie next year. We'd both
Gussie's not getting homeschooled.
We'd both cry during math class every day, so it
Gussie's, dope. He's not going to homeschool. But for the kind of people that like homeschool, I'll tell you this: the homeschool people are the most organized lobby. Say what?
What did you say? Gussie's
not getting homeschooled. This is not happening. He's got friends. He's that. Look, we don't need to point out all the reasons why Gussie's not getting homeschooled. But I'll tell you this: before you send your direct messages, homeschool folks are some of the most organized people I've ever seen in my life. They are at the Capitol. I appreciate them watching.
I was going to say, you're about to get a lot of heat in those Twitter DMs.
Maybe you, as you were homeschooled.
Unsubscribe me.
The homeschool folks, Missouri, can I tell you, talking for 1 second, I love the homeschool people. You are very well organized, and I appreciate your vigor. It's just not, it's the right fit for some kids. It's not the right fit for Gussie.
That's right.
And we want kids to have those choices.
But wouldn't you just, so I know this isn't the point of school, but couldn't you just recruit someone to your neighborhood, give them a free apartment if they, let's say hypothetically they were a good running back, right? Mm-hmm. Or they were a good linebacker. Couldn't you maybe lure them in, say they're homeschooled, and then send them to your school? I guess you can do that now anyway,
Well, you still have to live there. So
I guess you can do that now,
using
right?
the resources of the school, but doing the activities.
If they rented you an apartment now and you went to school there, you'd still be going to school there, right? So
Right.
And your parents are still paying property taxes there.
yeah, I mean,
Matter.
give me a couple things coming out of your meeting that you'd like to see done after Prop A.
Well, definitely would like to see the abortion HJR addressed. We want to get that done. That's a huge priority. That's the number one priority for the Republican conference. So we want to make sure that's done. I'd love to see Prop A get done in this session, and then open enrollment. That'd be a great thing. If we got those things done, it would go from a great session or a good session to a great session.
Talk about your decision on the abortion HJR. I really had a high regard for how you handled that. I remember Tom Dempsey when he was the very well respected president of the Missouri Senate. They brought up a right to work bill, a bill Tom Dempsey did not vote for, but Tom Dempsey ran the floor with an issue. That was his caucus's priority by all accounts. It just wasn't his. He ended up voting no, but he actually ran a PQ on that piece of legislation because he was the leader. And I always respected Tom so much for something I didn't agree with personally, but I respected how he put his caucus above his own thoughts, because that's what he promised to do when he was running for the job. I've watched you do the exact same thing, and I think so many people come out of it with a high regard for you for an issue that you felt compelled to vote no on, but your caucus was important. How you put your caucus above yourself. That is not something you see a lot in modern politics.
Yeah, it was pretty easy for me. It obviously was something that 99% of the House Republican conference wanted, so it made it a priority for me. And then I think every member just has to go out and vote for their constituents, and I don't think that was a resolution that worked for Lee Summit, so I voted the way I thought was best. And another thing I can tell you is if it's changed over in the Senate, amended, and they send it back, it will go to the floor immediately, and we'll get that done. They might pass it over there, but if it comes back, of course, everybody has my commitment that it would go to the floor over here and people would have a chance to vote on it.
I mean, if you were really, in all honesty, if you were talking about a living definition of statesmanship in a world where that's really not as prized as it used to be, that would be the definition of statesmanship. I know if you're pro-choice, you won't like to hear that, or pro-life or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, putting your caucus members above yourself, that's quite admirable. I think you won a lot of people over with your ability to whatever the issue is, and I know abortion's its own kind of thing. Everybody's got pretty radical views on that topic, more than most. I think a lot of folks had a high admiration for you putting the desires of your caucus ahead of your own feelings.
Well, thanks, and I think I hope it gets done over there. But if it gets amended, bring it back over here, and we'll bring it right up and pass it.
I mean, if you take your speaker hat off, you can, and put on your political consultant hat for a second. You've won some tough races. You've run some tough races. It feels to me like the public, the old law was a little further out than where the public was. Feels like this law currently may be a little further the other way than where the public is. It looks like you're in the Senate. There's two different perspectives. One is hardline, no exceptions. Doesn't matter if we lose the election. We're going to be ideologically pure. Then you got another side that says we could eliminate 90% of the abortions in this state with just a more moderate position that might actually pass. What would you advise the senators as they take this issue up, what they should do?
Well, one thing I never do is I never advise senators. But what I've told people before is I think we're a lot closer on this abortion issue than we've ever been. I agree with you. The total ban, it just didn't work for Missouri. I've said that before. Now we voted on exceptions. So I think we're debating whether it's 12 weeks, whether it's 14 weeks. Now we're debating whether you can get this exception or that exception. Like I've said before, I think we're all within the 40-yard lines now, and that's where the debate is. And I think that's actually something that ought to be celebrated.
I think you could tell that you are, because 3D Doug, not Flat Doug, I'd be willing to bet you, if you went on the floor and said, okay, the law that was in fact, no exceptions, whatever, that's the HJR, no ballot candy, just that, I think the Democrats would complain for 3 hours and let you pass it, put it on the ballot, because I think they're that confident it would go down. And I agree with them. I also think there's a real chance, if you engage the right people, you could pass something that has some exceptions has some empathy towards people in that situation. I think you can do both. But I do think, I don't know what the point is of something that you're very confident will lose throwing it up on the ballot.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're all kind of trying to figure out at this point. But we're all kind of within that same area now, as opposed to being no exceptions and a total ban.
I got to visit with three of your colleagues, Representative Brown, Hindman, and Jeff Faughn, on their 6'4" and More podcast. Yeah. That was fun. Those guys had a great time.
Those guys do a great job. And last night we had our end of the year party, and they produced a video that was really good. And there's some high quality. There's some production value on that.
I heard it might have been the best end of year party in a long time, which is a low bar. But I heard some of the jokes were actually funny.
Yeah, no, I think they did a good job. They do need to punch up their audio game a little bit, and I think that'd be great.
I've told them when I was on there, I've got a shotgun mic that would take care of a lot of Kelton is actually in charge of getting that squared away for them tomorrow.
Yeah, but the winner of the night was the Rotunda Roundup podcast with Jimbo Murphy and Donnie Mayhew.
Oh yeah, I saw they were working out or something in a video.
Yeah.
I had that. That's not great. Let's talk about a couple things that have been sent to the House and you're waiting. The Farm Bureau bill to provide health care to folks in rural Missouri. Is that something that the urban Republicans are going to hijack, or are you going to be able to keep that intact?
No, I think that's something that a lot of us support, and I think we'll pass it over here. I think there's some negotiating going on with other parts of the bill, which happens on most pieces of legislation. But that is something that I want to get done, the Farm Bureau bill.
It just seems like, in all fairness, you spend a lot of the session on St. Louis City. A lot. And then in the Senate, probably percentage-wise, more than the House. But that is something. I mean, you could those two of those 6'4" and more guys. Well, the two that are 6'4", I suppose. I mean, that's something tangible they could take back to their members, and maybe say, I'm a believer in Kehoe's approach that curing crime in St. Louis is a good thing for the rest of the state. But that's several years in the making. You could, by the fall, be selling insurance plans in Jeff Faughn and the Donnie Brown's district. There'd be a real benefit to them.
Right, and anytime you can get people health care or more health care, I'm in favor of that. And they have this in other states like Tennessee and Kansas. It's very popular, works well. So I hope that's something we can get done.
How do you go about? I mean, obviously, the Senate, since Rod Jetton was Speaker, I've actually personally saw senators say, we can never get that back through the Senate. You have to just pass it clean. And your members, of course, they see Senate bills and they want to hang everything they've ever heard on them. Mm-hmm. It kind of all falls to you to play that game of poker with the Senate. The floor leader's with you, but I mean, you're the guy in charge. How do you approach that of, telling the Senate, well, sorry, you've got to get it back through because we're going to add some stuff or change some stuff. Yeah. What is your approach to this end of session game of poker you have to play with the Senate?
We got to talk about the pass it clean jar.
Yeah, the pass it clean jar is, every Senate bill comes over with the instructions that it can't go back and it has to be passed clean. And somehow
every Senate bill since the beginning of time has come over.
That's right. We joke in the Speaker's office that in Senate training school on day one, that's the first thing they teach you. But over here, anytime someone brings up passing something clean, we do have like a swear jar, and we'll collect the money till the end of session, and then we donate it to the Rape Crisis Center of Jeff City. But it's just a matter of picking a handful of bills to pass clean, just like they do for us, and then making some other bills amended with some of our House priorities, and it's just kind of a back and forth. But I think it all depends on leadership, and Tony Lukemeyer has been great to work with on that, and so I think this will be a very productive session.
I've seen, it's probably a little bit, to be fair, a function of the Missouri Senate functioning that there's been more House bills, and I think it's also, I do think Senator O'Laughlin has a high regard for you, and I think the proof of that is you've seen several House bills move through the Senate. Some of them very little changes. I think one or two of them no changes. The senators wake up in the morning very full of themselves. No offense to the 3 dozen of them, but I do think that there has been a respect And I think that probably starts at the top because the one legislator, the one House member they all know would be you.
Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for them. Of course, like I've said, I love Cindy. I think she's great. Tony Luke Myers, someone I really respect a lot. And then I think this session's gone well, probably also because of Nick Shore.
Yeah,
he could have
deserves a lot of credit.
He could have dictated a lot of what happens in session, and he's been great to work with.
I really think Nick might be the star of session, and probably more so for things he hasn't done than things he has. And he's had a hell of a session. That's so probably how big of a deal it's been. And I think you throw Rick Bratton in that too. Rick Bratton came back. He came back to play. I think he came back ready to go. And I think he
passed a huge bill and had him over in the house when we were passing it. I've always gotten along great with him and his family. Got to know his dad. I think Shore, Senator Bratton, those guys have done well this session.
All right, we won't keep you much longer. You just tell me when you got to go. We'll do a little work. We've done word association with Bailey and Cindy, so I thought we'd do it with you. Both Bailey and Cindy said you'd be the funnest person as long as we just sit quietly. Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Are we doing names?
Yeah.
Okay. John, are you ready?
Okay, what are we doing?
Name association. You give us whatever pops off your mind about a few people we throw at you.
Just one word.
Okay.
1, 2, either way.
Okay. Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
Oh, I like that one.
Smart.
Oh, I was wanting more than smart. All right, well, what do you got to do it too? What do you when you
I have to
Yeah,
pick
you got to do it too.
Ride or die.
Ride or die, that's right. High ceiling, and great mother that picks great names for her kids, especially Gerhardt.
Especially Gerhardt.
Yeah, anybody that has 6 kids, I got a lot of respect for. My mom had 6 kids.
Well, you get a lot of practice in picking names with 6. Yeah. But she really ended on a high note with Gerhardt. That's a hell of a name. All right, Alex Riley, tell folks about him.
Alex is, we always say brainy. That's mandatory.
He is smart.
But he has done a great job. And I've thought this year has been a lot of fun, and that's probably because of Alex, and we get along really well. He's just a kind of, no nonsense, humble person. He's great to work with. All of the members really enjoy working with him. I think he's got the respect of both Republicans and Democrats. But I think people have told me it's kind of like Mike Searpoy and Todd Richardson. And I really enjoy working with Alex, and he's going to be he's doing a great job, and he's going to, of course, go on to higher offices, and he'll continue to do a great job.
Except, you're both a lot younger than Searpoy. And let's be real.
But that's a great compliment. I mean, when people talk about the House functioning well, they always reference back to Todd and Mike. And I think watching you two this session has made me especially really proud to be a small part of helping you guys get
But
there.
you don't get out of the word association with that.
Oh, I'm going to say leadership.
I'll just give an observation. I think to really understand Alex Riley, you need to visit with him with his wife. I think that you learn
Ellen
a lot
10 on 10.
about. She's very magnanimous, very big personality, and to see the way the two of them interact, I don't know Alex Riley super well, but I certainly had a much better feel for him when I seen him with his wife that time down in Springfield at Melanie's event. It completed the picture for me to see the two of them interact together.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Before session, Alex. Chad and me, with our wives, went out to a great place between Branson and Springfield. I can't remember the name, but it's
Lambert's.
What's that?
Lambert's, where they throw the rolls.
No, it was one of these fancy places, and got to hear the story of Alex and how he met Ellen. And you're absolutely right about that. That's how you really understand Alex. But
all right, let's do Perkins. We got to do Perkins.
Yeah, Chad's been very busy this year. He does most of the time on the floor, and I always say he's probably the most influential and popular member. He just knows everybody, gets along with all the members, and he's a lot of fun to work with too. Our leadership team has a lot of fun.
Let me ask you about the Senate race. Your senator, Mike Searpoy, is term limited next summer. Obviously, Carrie Ingalls is on our show this week. I think she's having an announcement tomorrow night in Lee's Summit. But obviously, you're the top person. I mean, the race starts and stops with you. What is your process on making a decision about whether that's something you want to do?
Well, right now I'm really focused on session. So I think after session, we'll just take a look at it and see if it's something something I can add to. There are a number of great people in Jackson County that I think could do it. But right now I'm just focused on getting through session.
Are you confident in that?
Sure our priorities done.
Look, I think Donald Trump, you'd have to say, Republicans I know nationally see some storm clouds on the horizon. I think if you ran for that, you'd be the front runner and you'd most likely win, whatever Trump's position is at the time. Is it something where you could decide the last day of filing to run and put together the money and probably win? If you're not going to do it, do you feel pressure to give other folks that don't have your stature in Lee Summit a chance to start putting their campaigns? I mean, it's going to take anybody else besides you. It's going to take a lot longer time to put together an effort.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit, but right now I'm just focused on getting through session, and then that's probably things that I'll talk about and consider. But right now, I just want to make sure we get our priorities done.
Cindy O'Loughlin, when we played this game Monday, and I won't keep you but a minute or two longer, she said about you private. That was the word she used to describe you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, it's amazing the two of you get along, because that's not a word I would use to describe Cindy. Give me the word you'd use to describe Cindy.
I would go with blunt. He just says it like it is. I mean, you sitting in a meeting with the governor or the Queen of England, I think she would tell it like it is. That's why people love her. That's why I love her.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like Casey said, why she's good at her job.
I can't even say her name with us, because every time I talk to her, if she calls or something, I just smile, because it's a very enjoyable conversation. Now, I don't have to live and die with these decisions like you all do, so I get to sit in the peanut gallery and observe. But every time I've ever spoken to her on the phone, I just end up dying laughing. Oh, I got to tell you something, though, by the way. We have formed a triumvirate here. The Attorney General, Cindy, and myself are forming a softball team to take you and Kehoe out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Kehoe's team is tough.
Well, some of them could get arrested. I don't know. I mean, he can pardon them, but Andrew can get him in jail for at least about 4 hours for a softball tournament.
They're pretty good.
We're on the Jake Crozen is the recruiting director. He's recruiting. If you're watching this and you want to be on the winning softball team, you want your bills to pass the Senate and or not go to jail, I would probably reach out to Jake, especially if you're a woman that can play softball. That's kind of where we're starting with here.
I won't be being recruited. Don't worry.
What's your relationship with Governor Kehoe? How often do you guys talk?
Oh, it's great. Like I've always said, I think he's just an exceptional leader. If I had the word associated with him, I would say he's a workhorse. He's everywhere. Somehow he's got. I think he has a body double, because he'll be in one place, and then an hour later he'll be in halfway across the state going to an event. But he's been great to work with. We meet once or twice a week, actually, and just go over our strategy, our plan. That's when I see him with Cindy, and it's just a lot of fun. I just sit there and watch, actually, him and Cindy talk. But he's been great to work with. We're lucky to have him.
Your turn, Casey.
Oh, word association?
Yeah.
Well, you skipped me for Perkins and Cindy, so I didn't know if I was still here or not.
Oh, well, you could do them too. I mean, it's cool.
For Governor Kehoe, I'm going to say charismatic. He is the most charismatic politician of our time, I think. He remembers your name, he remembers your story, he remembers your family, and he is so good at it.
Him and Schmidt run a pretty tight. Claire McCaskill is very charismatic. I said winner. I just think what Mike Kehoe does, he just wins, right? If he's going to do something, I'd bet my money on him. The guy's just a winner. I don't think he's ever lost a race. And his first Senate race was not one that I don't think when he started, folks thought he was the favorite.
Yep.
All right, let's do one or two more here. What about Tony Luetkemeyer?
When I think of Tony, I think of smooth. He just he does things, makes it look easy. He's always seems to be in control of things. But yeah, he's great to work with, and yeah, it's been fun.
My last question is Mike Searpoy. Tell me about him.
Well, Mike and I can't ever talk about Mike without talking about Miss Connie.
Yeah, the boss.
They've been friends and mentors, both of them, throughout my time and short time in politics. And so we live about probably about a mile from each other. And it's great to have a person like Mike Searpoy as your state senator, as your mentor. If I ever have any problems, he's already seen it. He's been in the positions that I've been in terms of offices. So it's great to have a relationship with them and to always know that there's someone here and someone back home that you can turn to that's has seen it all, really.
Do you know what the main thoroughfare through their subdivision is called? I can't make this up. Dick Hauser Drive or Lane or something. Yeah, literally a train thief. I do Mike
Jackson
and Connie.
County, right? Mike and Connie. For Mike, I'm going to say loyal.
That's fact.
And for Connie, just lovely. I am just happy every time I see her. She's smart,
lovely, but she's got a knife in that purse.
Oh, 100%. She could sneak attack you real quick.
I would say I love them like kinfolks, but I love them more than all my kinfolks. So they're very special. Mr. Speaker, you gave us more time than we asked for. Thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
All right, the dude just, I mean, he's always just got it together. You know what I mean? When you talk to John Patterson, he runs a cool engine. He's organized. He's never looked stressed. I see what Cindy said about private, though.
One of my favorite things, yes, he runs a very cool engine. And maybe that comes from a background of surgery. Because one of my favorite things...
That's probably a good quality.
Yes. He, in a caucus meeting... Can I take this?
Yeah.
In a caucus meeting one day, he was talking about Hannah and an HRCC event. He was talking about Hannah Sutton. And he was like, the great thing about Hannah, she's calm, she's cool. She could be a surgeon in another life. And then he goes, and then Casey. She's neither of those things and could never be a surgeon. And nothing could be more true.
I think it's, yes. I mean, yes. I think that's a very astute observation.
Yes.
And I'm not really qualified to assess surgeons, but, by the way, I just want to tell you, I'm considering a new career choice.
I saw that today.
And I was just going to ask if I could get a letter of reference from you. I'm going to bid on the parking enforcement in Jeff City.
I would be happy to write you a letter.
Thank you. I've asked Ron Fitzwater. I've asked Andrew Bailey said he would. As a
business owner in the city of Jefferson, I feel like I can adequately write you a letter for that.
I actually think they do a good job now.
Right now, it's great.
But if I took over, I would promise to do everything I'm doing, and you get a few tickets downtown. Don't think there's gonna be there's got to be some tickets. You got to move traffic around.
A little bit of regulation.
But I would go out 1 hour a week, and I would write a couple tickets. If somebody I didn't like.
Yeah. I got a few plates. I'll send your way.
You see, I don't have that many people I don't like, but if I don't like you and you come downtown, I'd have my Gestapo come in hard, and you wouldn't be able to see for all the tickets in your windshield.
You and Gussie and your Nerf guns can be out there.
Free, sir. Don't move. But then I would just get a lawn chair and a 6-pack of Bud Light and a big stack of $1 bills, and I would just hand them out and apologize for what assholes the city was prior to a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? And just apologize, right? And then when the beer was drank, I'd go back in.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
On a hot day, you probably better get there quick.
That's right.
But if it's cold, December, you'd have some time.
When it's hot, I'll make sure you've got an umbrella. Don't want you getting too burned.
Well, that's very polite of you. No, I'd like you to say, Mayor Fitzwater, I'm throwing my hat in as the next parking enforcement director. Do they actually have a picture in when they took pictures of, they got a whole big packet of information about this. My truck is photographed as one of their examples on how to do this. Yeah.
Good or bad? Like you should do this or you shouldn't do this?
Oh, it was bad. I don't know. I also didn't give permission to use that photograph. Yeah, about time to call Hatfield.
I was going to say, I think you've got grounds for suit there.
Well, we'll let Chuck decide. So what does a political strategist work on when everybody else is legislating?
Trying to get everyone up and running.
The yard? Oh.
Yeah, who works on our yard? It's not him. Trying to get everyone up and running for the second session is over so they can start raising their money and executing their campaigns. And it's a lot harder than you would think given the time constraints that many of them have in the building right now. So it's a lot of juggling schedules and trying to figure out. Everyone has the same 3-hour slots every week where they can meet, and there's not always enough time, but you got to figure out how to make it work.
Something tells me you will. So, I mean, the school bill, it's on the Senate floor. I assume it's still on the Senate floor. It's kind of a hard thing. Jake, the smart-ass Croson. Did you know I got a ticket in front of the Capitol once, and Jake took a picture of the dude?
Oh, I've seen the tweets. I've seen the read receipts.
What a smart-ass. Him and Marath, that whole, like, the exterior Kansas City people
Jackson County is its own breed.
Searpoy, Croson, then you got Marath. I like smart-ass Mark Marath, although that rhymed. So they're still in the school bill. I mean, honestly, it takes a lot to pass one of these things, right?
It is. An education bill in recent years has been a heavy lift. We saw 727 pass last year. I think there was a lot of effort put into that.
That was a little bit of a sleight of hand on 727.
Perhaps.
But it seems to me like you're going to come back in 2 years and redo the whole thing. Why? It almost feels like you're a lot of effort for, by the time this is implemented in the school year, the bill will become law in August. You can't implement it the first year schools are already started by August 29th. Or August 28th. You're really talking about 1 year before you come in, one school year, before you come in and blow everything up in 27. It seems like a lot of work for not a lot of benefit.
Why are we blowing everything up in 27?
Well, I think
I don't know the policy.
Governor Kehoe has said he has a blue ribbon commission. I know, but he has a commission. Their report's due in the end of 26. And so it would lead you to think that in 27, with the legislative session, he puts school choice out. I think, you've said this for years. I have been a lot slower to come around to it, but you're right. School choice is an idea whose time has come. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Mike Kehoe is a winner. The only hope for the traditional schools was to see a different governor who might get into wars with the legislature and lock down. That is not, you've just seen a lot of Democrats we'd be having dinner would say, oh, Mike Kehoe's got to win that primary. And I would always be like, well, I see how you feel. But he's not going to put a bunch of goofy stuff on the internet to tick you off, but he's going to actually accomplish things, like take over of the St. Louis Police Department.
I was with a state Senate client on Monday in donor meetings all through the St. Louis area, and without prompting, every single one of those individuals we met with brought up Governor Kehoe, how thankful they were that he won, and how they backed him, supported him, and how they were excited to see him
everyone
win.
backs him now, right?
Yeah, but I think you can check the MEC records.
I think they actually, yes.
I think
their money where their mouth was.
Put their money where their mouth was. But look, education reform is a heavy lift. I think it's got to be done incrementally. There's a lot on the education establishment side as far as.
Is that a wasp on live TV? Wow. Truman, get that dude. Truman's ready.
I was like, did we get it?
Well, I think that's a sign, Casey, that we're done here.
Yeah.
We'll be back tomorrow with Jake, and I'm not sure who, and then we'll see you Sunday with Carrie Engel for This Week in Missouri Politics, unless this thing stings me on the face.
I'll grab the EpiPen.
What? Okay, folks, seriously, before we do get stung, I'm not going to blame Kelton for this, but I can't say it's not his fault. We'll see you Sunday, and then we'll be back here. Kelton, can we do this all 4 days of session at some point? Wow, okay.
Let's do
Guys,
it.
we're tapping out. Yeah. I will see you, it's a red one too. I will see you Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics, maybe, if we survive.